My family took a $3,000 vacation without me, then assumed I'd watch their kids for free. I left at 5 a.m. and they called CPS when they found out. My older sister Jen has 3 kids, ages 2, 4, and 7. I love them, but they're a lot to handle. Jen's always asking me to babysit because daycare's too expensive and her husband works long hours. I usually say yes because I'm the youngest and I feel guilty saying no to family. But this time was different. 2 months ago, Jen called me all excited saying she and her husband were planning this big anniversary trip to Hawaii. 7 days at some fancy resort with her husband, his parents, and my parents. She kept showing me pictures of the beach and the pool and the spa. I was happy for her until I asked when they were going. She said the second week of June. That's the exact same week I had my nursing exam scheduled, the test I'd been studying for all year to get my RN license. I'd told everyone in my family about this exam months ago. When I reminded Jen, she just waved it off and said I'd figure it out. Then she casually mentioned she needed me to watch the kids while they were gone. Not asked, told. I said no immediately. I explained I had the biggest test of my life and needed that whole week to study and prepare. Jen got mad and said family helps family, that I was being selfish over one little test. My mom called me the next day saying I was being unreasonable, that Jen deserved a break and I could reschedule my exam, except I couldn't. The test was only offered twice a year and I'd already paid the $300 registration fee. I stood my ground and said no. They stopped talking to me for 3 weeks, just complete silence. Then the week before their trip, Jen showed up at my apartment unannounced. She had all 3 kids with her and 2 huge suitcases. She said she knew I'd come around and do the right thing. Before I could say anything, she handed me a paper with emergency contacts and instructions. She said they were leaving in 2 days and she'd already paid for everything, so there was no backing out now. I tried to argue, but she just kept talking over me, saying how much the kids loved their Aunt Bailey and how this trip was non-refundable. She left before I could physically stop her. The kids were standing in my living room with their stuff and I had no idea what to do. I called my mom and she said to just deal with it for 1 week, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. Nobody cared about my exam. Nobody even asked how my studying was going. They all just assumed I'd give up my future because babysitting was more important. That night I made a plan. I waited until 5 in the morning when the kids were still asleep. I packed up all their stuff, loaded them in my car, and drove to my mom's house. My parents weren't going on the trip until that afternoon. I knocked on the door until my dad answered. He was confused seeing me there so early with the kids. I told him I was dropping them off and leaving, that I'd said no multiple times and they ignored me. My dad tried to convince me to take them back, but I refused. I said if Jen wanted to go on vacation so badly, she could find another babysitter. I drove straight to my apartment, turned off my phone, and studied for 3 days straight. When I finally turned my phone back on, I had 47 missed calls and about 100 texts. Most were from Jen absolutely losing it, calling me every name in the book, saying I ruined their vacation because my parents couldn't watch the kids and go to Hawaii at the same time. Apparently they had to cancel last minute and lost like $2,000 in fees. But the craziest message was from my mom. She said they'd called CPS to do a wellness check on me because I was clearly having a mental breakdown and wasn't fit to be around children. I couldn't believe it. They actually called CPS on me for refusing to babysit. 2 days later, a social worker showed up at my door asking questions about my mental health and living situation. I showed her all the texts, explained the whole situation about my exam, and how they'd tried to force me to babysit. The social worker looked exhausted and told me this happened more than I'd think. Families weaponizing CPS because of personal disputes. She closed the case immediately and said she'd be noting in her report that this was a false claim. I passed my nursing exam with a 94. Started my new job at the hospital 3 weeks later, making actual money for the first time in my life. Jen didn't speak to me for 6 months. When she finally did reach out, it wasn't to apologize. She asked if I could babysit next weekend because her regular sitter canceled. I laughed and hung up.